Yeah.
Please call the meeting to order and say the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, do we have anybody signing wishing to speak? I don't think we had any reports of committees. Oh, we do?
Monday night, I attended the virtual delegate committee meeting and voted for all of the issues as directed by Ms. Augustro. I got the results yesterday, so I haven't had a chance yet to lay what we wanted versus what played out. So I'll do that, and I'll get any inconsistencies where we wanted to go one way and the group went the other way. I'll give Ms. Custodian.
Great,
It felt like we were all in line though.
thank you.
Quick ECASB update. I attended a student leadership dinner that they put on. This was the first time they did this event, and it was quite nicely done. There are student representatives at various districts, and a lot of districts don't have student representatives, but they invited some interested students or some leadership members, student council presidents, things like that, from the different districts. And it was a lot of roundtable discussions about how students could be more involved if they wanted to at the board level and things like that. So it was quite interesting. There has been some information sent out from Dave about it, so be sure to keep your eye on those updates from him. Couple upcoming events. November 3rd is the Albany update that Dave Little does each year. And November 19th is the legislative breakfast. So the November 3rd, it's a Thursday night, it's a dinner, and November 19th is a Saturday morning, the ECASB legislative breakfast. You can register with Ms. Custody if you would like to attend.
Were any of the student leadership things that we were already doing through like our Pathfinders and
No, it was-
things or there?
It was more like having somebody be a representative on the board, so that they were able to kind of work both directions of bringing things to the board table and then also being able to take information back to student government and share information that way as well. And talking about what it's like to be a representative of the board and some things like that.
Anybody else?
And ECASB is looking to develop a training program for student leaders, for those who do want to get involved in board representation.
Any other committees? With that, we'll hand it over to the superintendent's report. Mr. Fennell?
Well, as you know, this week is Board Recognition Week, so we thought you needed a space to meet in that reflected the caliber of board members that you all are. So we, as you heard, removed the fuzzy wallpaper from the walls. That must have been there since the 60s. Painted everything, designed some nice graphics. As Ms. McLaughlin pointed out, we wanted to make sure our mission was always apparent to keep us on task. And we also wanted to make sure the room reflected the pride we have in our school district and the values that we have when we meet to talk about the very important work we do. So thank you for your commitment to our community. Thank you for the hard work that you put in and volunteering. But most importantly, thank you for always putting students first. I know that seems like it should be the obvious, but as we've seen, that doesn't always take place in all school districts. So that always is apparent here, and I appreciate that. So thank you. And enjoyed the nice new chairs as well. I think we certainly got the use out of the chairs that we had. We may have had them since 1992. So certainly not an over expenditure on the chairs. But the other thing I wanted to mention too is October is National Principals Month. So I wanted to recognize our principals and assistant principals for the hard work they do to create the environment in our buildings that allow our teachers to do their jobs and our students to learn and grow and reach their fullest potential. So congratulations to our principals on their, and thank you to them for their leadership as well. And then the next and last piece that we have is Dr. Shanahan is here to provide us with an update on secondary curriculum work that has taken place and will take place. Welcome.
Thanks. So last time I met with you, we did an elementary update, and you had two highly engaged curriculum leaders. You have me tonight. With the change in date, we left them off with their families tonight. So I'm going to share with you the secondary curriculum update, but know that we have the same dedicated curriculum leaders at the secondary level as well, and I'm going to try to represent them well. So I want to talk a little bit first about world languages, because it has taken a major standard shift, but I'm really proud of where we are and how our, it used to be LOTE teachers, languages other than English, which is now going to be called world languages. And they've embraced and done a lot of work with the new standards changes, so I want to give you an update on that. Our social studies curriculum committee is run by Mark Jones, and math curriculum committee Kim King, and the English curriculum committee is Kate Rapp. So those are our leaders in those areas. But starting off with world languages, not for you to read, but just to represent what's happened. In 1996, we had standards written that were now just changed in March 15th of 2021. So they've been the same for quite some time, and teachers have been teaching under that set of standards. So now we are, being asked to embrace a little bit more culture in what we're teaching. And the standards are broken into two major categories. One is modern languages, which is any language that a native speaker speaks, and the other one is going to be the world languages that are Latin, ancient Greek, ancient Hebrew. The standards themselves are pretty streamlined for the teachers, which they found to be easy to work with. There's two anchor standards. It doesn't matter if, which side you're on or which language you're speaking, and then there are three standards beneath those. So the standards themselves are streamlined, and sometimes there are many. These are pretty concise, and so they deal with the standard communication, obviously, was interpreting when you're communicating, being able to present, and then also your interpersonal communication. And then the cultural anchor standard deals with understanding the cultural practices and those perspectives, and then doing some cultural comparisons. So that's the new structure for these standards. We've been working since my first day in the district with Erin Kearney. Dr. Kearney is a language professor at the University of Buffalo. She's also heavily involved with the rewrite on the state standards. And she also has taught many of our teachers in their master's programs at the university, and they really do enjoy working with her. So Dr. Kearney is working with us, one district only this year, and doing 5 sessions with BOCES, so we are so pleased to have her sustained work with us. The state adopted, we have until August 2023 to do raising awareness and building capacity. We are beyond that because we started this work in 2018-19 when there were drafts coming out. Kelly Moranto, one of our teachers, did a lot of work with the state on this and kept bringing information back to us. And so we kept working with Dr. Kearney, and we kept redeveloping until they were finally approved and adopted. So we're really at this light orange level right now. We're at phase 2, which is a gradual implementation and still building a little bit of capacity. And the full implementation we have till 2028, but we'll be well on our way because this is what we did. So 2021, we did all the developing awareness because that's when they were officially accepted in 2021. The LOTE acronym changed to world language. We looked at our horizontal curriculum, which is every grade level. And then we looked vertically across grade levels so that students increase in their ability over time. That was all done previous year and even during COVID, I'm proud to say. Our teachers work hard. In the last summer, we spent 5 days working together, and they evaluated their current curriculum, asking themselves what's the same and what's different. And then they devised a plan from there to transform and extend their practices. In their current curriculum, they completed, and this is impressive in a week, an entire scope and sequence, meaning from beginning of the year to the end of the year, how the units are going to be covered and how the standards are going to be covered across those. Now they have to fill the meat into those units. There are two assessments. There's something called Checkpoint A and Checkpoint B to see kids' progress. We have done Checkpoint A, so now we're focusing on continued curriculum revisions, getting down to units of study now. Finishing up with Checkpoint B will be coming up this year and continuing that unit writing. So I'm very pleased with where we are. I'm very pleased with how our teachers are moving through this. We also, one of the things that's occurred is like we have a Latin one teacher. She doesn't have many people to collaborate with. So one of the things that we've worked out is BOCES has 5 days during the year where they'll bring anybody in the region who wants to work on adopting these standards, and they put you in a situation where you're working across districts. So we sent 2 teachers from the high school and 1 teacher from the middle school to go into these meetings. But Dr. Kearney specifically said to me, I think I have a Latin group for Allison Boyer-Strang so that she has some people to collaborate with. So those 5 meetings are also going on, as well as we did September 1st, October 5th, and November 8th. They continue to write on those staff development days. So we're really pleased at where we are. Social studies, they, as you know, they had the U.S. history exam was canceled this year. So in the last day, they got together and they looked at their global history exam scores, and they'll be updating me on those soon. They also did some work with social emotional learning and how that fits into history and social justice of what they're already practicing. They worked with critical quote analysis for civic engagement. They've worked, and some of you children that have participated in that seal of civic readiness. So we were looking at that a little bit more and how to actively engage students in that type of thinking. Cultural historical thinking, as well as continued development around the seal of civic readiness. We're moving from a pilot phase, which it'll say right here, we're one of 50 schools to pilot, now we're moving to full implementation, which the teachers they met yesterday, matter of fact, a small team of them to design an elective for the seal of civic readiness. Mr. Pigeon and I have been very clear that this is not supposed to be a course where it's just going for AP students. It means all students can solve problems within their communities, and how do we provide multiple access points. So the elective will be one way to get to the course, but you can also participate in the seal if you don't take the elective. We have some kids with some really busy schedules too. So they might want to do the work, but in a different way. So they are also working on creating multiple pathways for kids to explore projects. They are also, when you do the seal of civic readiness and you pick an issue that you want to address, you have to have a way to think about it. And so they're using our work that Steve Appler brought to us, I think it was my first or second year here, with the Henry Ford Design Institute, and they're transitioning that design thinking model into the seal of civic readiness. So that they did on October 5th, and on November 8th, they're going to go into full implementation with that. So it's really just a process thinking model to go through how to solve a problem, right? And it gives us all a way to do problem solving and design thinking in multiple content areas. So that will anchor the thinking. And they'll give you more information when Mr. Pigeon comes towards the end of the year. And then they're continuing to prepare for the new framework for the U.S. History and Government exam, because that was never given, so they have no data yet on that, so they continue to forge forward on that. Our math.
This evening at 5:30, there was a nice story on Channel 7 about the seal of civic readiness that featured Ann Ward and Matt Murray and Scott Lonzak.
Did not know that.
Yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
we'll provide the link for you guys in case you missed it, but
They
were
worked
out
really,
yesterday.
hard on it. Absolutely. So math curriculum update. Kim King leads this group. She's a phenomenal leader. She's very motivating, and she tailors this work to where the department needs are across multiple grade levels. So she's an excellent leader for our district. In the middle school, they were finishing curriculum changes. This is the end of the curriculum changes for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Those will be in full implementation. One of the things in our essential elements instruction model is active participation. It means getting kids engaged in learning actively versus passively taking in information. And we have been working for multiple years on what those strategies might look like and how do they get implemented within our essential elements of instruction. So they've continued that work. They're also doing this implementation through coaching days. Trish Hustle from BOCES, she works with our 6 through 12 teachers. So she'll come in and do observations and give feedback. If they want her to look at a particular piece of their practice, She'll do one-on-one coaching, collaboration, planning, she'll model for them, so she has been working with them throughout this year as well. The high school this year, we have been working on active participation too for multiple years. They actually inserted a lot of active participation strategies in their current units that they had. So they felt like we're kind of wrapping that work up. It's never done, but we don't need to insert more now. We need to turn our eye to something else. So they went to database decision making with instruction. And so what they did this year was they got together over the summer in every course, Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, Trig, they have 3 common formative assessments that they're all giving. And they're entering those, they had to learn how to enter those into eDoctrina because they were trained years ago, but it's changed quite a bit. And so what they did on October 5th was they engaged in an analysis of how the students did by standards. And they, and I'll flip because I'm going right to the goals because I always get ahead of myself. They actually used the common assessments to decide which standards are being hit. Do they have to modify it or do reteaching at that point? And then they even looked at their assessments to see if like their distractors in the questions were appropriate or were they leading kids in certain directions. So they used that information to go into reteach on the units and to provide, and also to know what was going well, right? You have to recognize that as well as where you need your areas of improvement. And so I jumped ahead because I don't like linear things, but anyways, middle school, they did complete their maps, they're ready to go with all the changes, their active participation strategies, like I said, they're in the process of being coached right now in that, and those active participation strategies are integrated in with essential elements, and we constantly use, our common language of instruction is essential elements of instruction, and we have to make sure that what we're doing fits into that model if we want to have that common language work and be effective. English curriculum, one of the things, when you went to doing a lot of teaching on the screen, I think a year ago I told you I looked at the curriculum and it's like almost like opening a accordion folder. You might not have had to change everything, but you might have had to gone in certain areas and do a little bit more instruction than before. So they spent some time last year looking at where they thought students need a little bit more instruction. Not an overhaul, but just a little bit more scaffolding, a little bit more support. So they did develop some lessons, this by grades. This is what they worked on in the summer, is they worked with a text called Writing Revolution to develop specific lessons that I have listed there. They also saw a decrease in student conversation in classes. It didn't matter if they were, the level of the class, the level of the student. There wasn't anything demographically that was showing. It was just, we really think, if you think about it, you have a physical object over your face for a long time. And what it did was, one of the things that they felt was when they went to discuss what the text they were reading, kids were just not as participatory. So they wanted to purposely and strategically integrate in some talk strategies that they could use that would also help with social emotional, because we need to connect with other people. That's part of what keeps us healthy. And they also felt that the English language learning strategies needed to be integrated in. We have an increase in English language learners in our high school. So they're seeing more students with different language proficiencies than they have before. So this was an increase in, or added to their curriculum so they could better support. And they have a new text. They like those new books. There was just some simple revisions for the AP projects and thesis. They like to revisit those, revise those, and then they also were converting their thematic units across the year as well. So new course descriptions, new rubrics all have to go with that. So any changes that were made, they had to align instruction to their assessment, etc. And their favorite part is electives. I don't blame them. Crime scene fiction, that is a new elective that's offered this year, and they developed the curriculum for that new elective. And then Mr. Matzik has been teaching presentational speaking, and he wanted to do some revisions to that course as it was. That's the Syracuse course, and he wanted to do some slight revisions to those as well. I will tell you, I know Mr. Pigeon and Mr. Lonzak have got plans to share some deep dives into these with you, so I know they're going to share with you some examples. So I won't steal their thunder, but that is an overview of what we've been doing. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just before we close out the superintendent's report, I would be remiss if I didn't thank Lori and Deb for their hard work in renovating the space here. particularly going back and forth with the company on the design, which came out fantastic, and also Mark Rampato and the facility staff and our technology staff. You know, because we literally emptied it the morning after our last board meeting, and we were bringing stuff in, you know, this afternoon. So, great work by all of them, and thank you for entertaining my timelines to make sure it was a true surprise, and we did it in a short period of time. So, thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have tonight.
Thank you. So then we'll need a motion for new business.
I would like to make a motion for new business items E1, A through J, 2, B through E, and 3G.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Do we have any follow-up action items?
No.
Then we will need a motion to convene to executive session.
I'll make a motion to convene to executive session to discuss matters regarding employment of a particular person.
I'll second. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, everybody, for coming on a Wednesday. It was a good surprise.